Next item is item number 8, application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-3383, block 1244, lot 46, 433 West End Avenue in the Riverside West End Historic District Extension 1, a school building designed by Costas Maklourazarides and built in 1973 to 1975, with an addition designed by FX Fowle and built in 2003 to 2004. This is an application to alter the base of the building, and this was last presented on March 11th.
Difficult.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hillary Paget, Preservation Department staff. The existing photograph of the property shows the building in its context on the block. The proposal as presented at the March 11th public hearing consisted of alterations of the base of the building, installing a new glazing system at the building wall set back modestly from the plane of the existing facade, enclosing an open plaza, and altering the plinth and streetscape elements. Some commissioners asked the setback and plane and connection details of the new curtain wall be further restudied to maintain a sense of openness at the base of the building, and that the mullion system be further defined or altered to be as minimal as possible. The applicants were also asked to refine the treatment of the stone clad plinth and investigate reducing the plinth. Other commissioners were in support of the changes as proposed. In response, the applicants investigated moving the plane of the curtain wall, revised the curtain wall mullion and soffit details, further refined the plinth details. The design team is here to present the changes.
Okay, thank you, and the hearing will be open with a motion and a second. Thank you. Up to the front, whoever it is. And simply focus on, or to the extent you need, you don't need necessarily to repeat everything was said, focus on what you want to emphasize and how you've changed it in response to the concerns.
Thank you. I'm Steve Nelson, head of the school, and I'll be very brief with an introduction to provide a little bit of context. Appreciate your patience in inviting us back for a third time. After the first hearing, we asked our architectural team to go back and address the concerns. When we came for the second hearing, it was clear that the steps that we took to address the concerns were not satisfactory to all the commissioners. So I asked the team to go back and earnestly address those issues again. The first option that was considered by the architectural team in addressing the concerns that had been expressed was to set the glass storefront back significantly to the pillars on the existing plaza. The ramifications of that were several. Probably the most troubling was that it reduced the indoor seating area by about 28 seats. Now, this is not a matter of minor taste. As I explained in the original presentation on the project, we have 550 students in a school and we need to feed all of them, and our current lunchroom seats 70. So the minimum seating capacity that we felt that could serve the program was 200. A reduction of 28 would make the project, while not completely useless, would reduce the efficacy of it very, very significantly. So that was a problem with that solution to the concerns that had been expressed. Secondarily, from a point of view that's more philosophical than practical, part of what the school aspired to with this project was to re-engage the school with the neighborhood, with the street. Not primarily the setback, but the corollary results of the setback produced, as you can see in the existing conditions, a fence, a planting area, and a certain remove from the school, from the neighborhood. The solution that we presented at each of the previous hearings changed that and did re-engage the school and the neighborhood in a way that we found very appealing and is a significant priority of the school. So given that very significant setback was problematic from a seating and a functional point of view, and also severely compromised the extent to which we could engage in the neighborhood. We asked them to look at some other way that we could genuinely respond to the concerns that were expressed while retaining the program needs and retaining that sense of engagement, re-engagement with the neighborhood. So with that introduction,
Okay.
I'll introduce our team.
Thank you.
Misha Hunter, Lee Saltzman Architects. Again, thank you very much for hearing us today. One of the efforts that we did in preparing for this particular public meeting was look again at the early reviews, architectural reviews that really described and talked about the original architecture from 1975. And one of the most compelling things about it was the openness that we found that existed historically at the base of the building. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just read a very brief quote from Paul Goldberger, who wrote in 1975 in the New York Times in an article entitled "School Design Reflects Educational Shifts." And he said, I quote, "Young students are placed on the ground floor and can watch the activity of passers-by through large windows. An excellent idea and a good use of architecture to remind children at an early age that school is not a place cut off from the world." So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the commissioners today and introduce Ann Rowland from
Okay.
Hexbell.
Thank you.
Hi, Ann Rowland at Hexbell Architects. As Hillary had mentioned, the commissioner's comments the last time was really related to the setback of the glazing, the treatment of the soffit, and also the mullions themselves and the plinth. We are here to present solutions to
Okay.
all four of those issues. Let's, line forward in here. Okay. The plan, I think, is the most telltale in terms of what we have actually done. The plan on the left is the proposed scheme. The plan on the right actually is one of the samples of what we had examined along the way, and we want to show you actually the results of actually setting the glazing back. The scheme on the left, there is a consistent 1'6" setback, I'm sorry, 1'3" setback at the head that follows the travertine facade up above. And 1'6" is the setback at the plinth, at the what we refer to as the pinch point. So it goes from 1'6" on the plinth to about 5 feet at the corner. All right. The scheme where we set back to the column line, the pinch point is 4'2" at the plinth, going all the way up to 8'2". New York City Code comes into play here, because if you have a viable pathway, you are now required to provide a guardrail. Okay, so in this scheme, we are now showing that a guardrail would be added at the plinth because we have a viable pathway back behind. The other implication here is that the egress stair at the top actually is now exterior to the building and a larger setback because of structural issues to get to the handicap lift. Okay? So the other thing I want to point out here is we did push the wall of the lobby in. The 14 feet that we're citing here is really a minimum. It leaves you about 6 feet for the desk and then 8 feet for egress and ingress, which we're using 8 feet because that's the area of refuge minimum, okay? It would be very tight for ingress and egress to this building. We're proposing the 17-foot because it will actually really benefit circulation and flow into and out of the school. So the two elements that we really went back and rethought were the mullions to the glazing system and the continuity of the ceiling plane from inside to out. We're going to present that here today, and additionally show you the approach that we're taking to the plinth. The other thing I want to point out while I'm here on the facade is that one of the features of the facade where it is set back to 1'4" here is that the door to the exterior is not on the facade. Here, we actually have to add doors on the facade to get the egress to work. Okay, just an element that results from the setback. I talked about the exterior stair and the clearance at the desk. Facade pictures. These are diagrammatic. They don't suggest any particular kind of resolution architecturally, but they do point out the existing conditions which are at the top. This is the 81st Street facade. This is the West End Avenue facade. Existing conditions, you have about a 6'8" fence that was added in the 1980s because it kept homeless from sleeping on the plinth, and really, when it was put up, really acts now as a barrier to the school, as Steve had mentioned. If we did the full setback that I showed you at the 4'2" at the pinch point, you would actually need to add the guardrail. So in essence, you're putting back somewhat of a fence similar to the existing condition. What we're hoping is that we've been able to balance this now with a slight setback of the glazing, no mullions on the glazing system, and a continuity of the plinth from inside to out, so creating that recess and reveal in a more elegant way. What we have found, and I will walk you through this with a site survey, where we originally came in with a 5-foot dimension at the corner, we're now down to 4'3" at the corner. Basically, we were working off of existing condition drawings that were inaccurate. We had a survey done, and the plinth is actually 9 inches lower than we had originally anticipated.
So what is the height of the plinth?
The height of the plinth, varies. I have a better picture of this
that's all right.
moving forward, but while I'm here, let me do this. At the low end, it's about 1'9". To the corner, this is the corner of 81st and West End Avenue, you're at 4'3". And when you turn the corner, at the very far end of the plinth, northwest corner, it's at 6 feet.
So that's the highest point.
That's the highest point, and that's on the 81st Street facade. You'll see it better here, just in terms of what it physically looks like. The low end of the plinth, 1'9". The high end, right here, 6 feet, also helping to create the entry to the school, which right now is not a very definable entry. Okay, this gives you a good idea about the mullion-less glazing now. The setback at a consistent 1'3" from the facade, so providing a discernible separation from the mass above. Carry the existing soffit directly into the space beyond, so that there's continuity between inside and out and a blurring of the lines between inside and out. As I mentioned, the corner right here is 4'3". We've gone back to the original proposal that we had put forth, because the last time we came in, there was a little bit of an unresolved corner right here. The existing conditions I will show you later, but this existing condition is at an angle. This, the West End Avenue plinth, is at a straight up and down orientation. So we're just following what's there, but because the plinth is 9 inches lower, we think that it won't have the massiveness at the street wall that there was concern for. Okay. The other thing that we really want to emphasize is not having the fence and not having any guardrail between the glazing and the street wall really does help connect the street to the school and the school to the street, which really we believe, based on Paul Goldberger comment, was the original intent of the school. Just a couple of glazing details. This is what we had proposed with the mullion. We are now mullionless. It's a double glazed system, double glazed laminated system for structural reasons. Glazing will be black, and the mullion separator will also be black.
Did you do another rendering of the other that you tried? Or was the one that you were showing where it goes back and more, where you have the fence?
We did not render it. No. This is the glazing system that we're proposing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, please, proceed.
This is the glazing system as we're proposing it, just
Yeah.
a reference as an example. This is the soffit detail, this is existing condition for the soffit. As you can see, it does come from outside to inside, but then it stops, it jumps up, and there's an exposed ceiling here. We're actually saying that we're going to continue it as the underside of the above. The vent that was recessed in this corner is now right there, and I'm going to show you an example of that, but it is just an opening in the underside of the soffit. It's very similar to this. This is the underside of the soffit, although we are going to paint ours the same color as the soffit, so it actually...
So it's that number one?
So right here,
So it's
yes.
a couple of locations?
There are two locations. One is spill air, the other is purge air, centered between the columns, so it's composed with what's there. There is a precedent on the building. Hopefully ours will be integrated a lot more gracefully into the design. And then this is what I was talking about with regard to the plinth. We actually did get a survey. The survey basically says that we have a 5'11", approximately 4 feet to the upturned beam on the 81st Street facade. We need to add 4 inches to that. That's how we get to 4'3" at the corner right here. I'll walk you, this is where we were. This is the existing condition right here. This is where we were at 5 feet. This is where we actually, based on the survey, will be 4'3". The other piece of this is, just so you understand, what's in red here is structure, so we can't go into, impede on that. So we felt the simplest way of resolving the base was to just follow what's there, setting it back at the angle on 81st Street, straight on West End Avenue, and the corner then resolves itself pretty gracefully.
Okay.
Like what we had shown you before.
Okay, further questions? Okay, fine, I'm going to go to discussion. Thank you. Fred, please.
Well, I think like a good lawyer, you've taken us through step by step all aspects of this to the degree it seems inevitable that this is the right solution to me now. I think showing some of the requirements like the rail and so forth that might be required if you didn't work the pinch point the way you have is actually kind of very clever. But I think it all works. In other words, we wanted the glass to be pushed back, knowing that that would be a little bit of a problem. Now, hearing that it was 28 seats less, I can imagine that that would be hugely a problem, and you figured out another way of doing it. So I think, to me, that was the main issue, and you've solved it very well.
Okay, Michael?
I agree, I can approve it.
Joan?
Yeah, I agree as well.
Diana? Marjorie?
Yeah, I agree.
I'm still not on board.
Okay. Roberta?
I could, I suppose, approve, but I have still, like, questions. I think that the good thing about it, what we're showing, is that the plinth is lower, and so that part looks really good, I think. But I think I would wanted to have seen, I wanted to bring something to show that that pushback part actually did not work. I mean, it looks okay, so.
Okay, okay. So close the hearing. Diana, please.
In the matter of a certificate of appropriateness, Borough of Manhattan, got the wrong one?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, 433 West End Avenue, Riverside, West End Historic District Extension 1, Block 1244, Lot 46. The school building designed by Kostas Maklazadidis and built in 1973-75. Application is to alter the base of the building. I recommend approval, finding that the original school building has been highly altered with changes to its fenestration and base and construction of an addition doubling its size. That the removal of the existing recessed glazing system and the installation of a new glazing system enclosing the base of the building will help to ground what has become a much larger building. that the new mullion-less clear glazing system, which will be modestly set back from the facade and will terminate above the plane of the soffit to accommodate this curved ceiling and will otherwise approximate the existing finishes and conditions, will maintain a sense of openness and depth that relates to the original design of the building floating above a plaza, that the plane of the glazing system cannot be set back further from the plane of the facade without having to accommodate a required accessible walkway and guardrail atop the plinth, which would create a physical and visual barrier at the base of the building, that alterations to the plinth, including recladding it in black granite to match an original material, raising and sloping the low wall segment to match the existing taller segment, will regularize its appearance and improve its interaction with the facade and the streetscape, that the opaque colored glazing will be used only within the returns of the entry corridor and will subtly identify the primary building entrance, that the removal of the ironwork fence will not result in the loss of historic fabric, that the patterned concrete and retention of planting beds for existing trees will maintain aspects of the original design, that the installation of a metal screen fence in front of the service area will replace an existing fence and will not detract from the building or streetscape, and that the proposed school identification signage engraved into the stone plinth at the corner of the building is in keeping with similar historic and modern signage integrated into architectural features of institutional buildings, and that the contemporary design and materiality of the proposed alterations will be harmonious with the character of this highly altered modern school building.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Thank you. It's done. Approved. Thank you. One more, and then we'll break for lunch. We'll do a